lounging, son.
All right, welcome back to the Comic Lounge. My name's Ryan.
And I'm Manny.
I'm coming to you straight from San Diego. That's why this background is different. I'm in a hotel, but I could not talk about this book we're going to talk about, which is Big Game by Mark Millar and Pepe Larraz, dude. This is a book that we've been talking about on the channel. We interviewed Mark. We've talked about some of the old stuff. Every book we've talked about is in this book. It's his big crossover of all his Millarworld. So,
and we didn't even get the chance to talk about all of them because, I mean, if you look in the back, it gives you a reading guide, and it's like everything, man. You know, like.
Oh, it does? I didn't see that part. I must have skipped that.
I think it's in the back. Or maybe it was online. I know I saw it where it's just like the covers of all the books. Yeah, I'll figure it out.
Yeah, so I mean, we've talked about Starlight. He's in the book. We've talked about Wanted. Obviously, this is kind of a pseudo sequel to Wanted, even though it's not called Wanted 2. And then Nemesis. We talked about the original one. I just finished Nemesis Reloaded. We'll probably talk about that at some point too, which is also like leads right into this. And then like you have Chrononauts is in this book. Like mentioned, Prodigy is mentioned in the book. What's it called?
Nightclub. Kingsman is going to be involved.
But Prodigy seems like he's a big factor.
That
was on my list. I had the trade at home. It was one of the ones I had mentioned to you of wanting to talk about because Rafael Albuquerque is the artist, and I love his art. And then there was another book in there. Obviously, Ambassadors, which we've talked about. So it's pretty cool to kind of like see him, like he weaves them very well. Like it doesn't seem like whatever, I guess a cheap stunt is what people might call it, but it doesn't feel that way because like it's very seamless the way he's weaved it in. Oh, and even like Kick-Ass makes an appearance, So
we'll talk about that because that was one of my favorite scenes. Was Dave's scene. No, and you're right. It is very seamless, and it's like, I've seen a lot of chatter about it online, and to me, I know there's nothing new about it, but somehow it feels fresh as a crossover. I don't know if you agree with me, like by virtue, I guess, of seeing these properties together that you would never really think because. Yeah, they're all Millarworld, but I mean, I never really thought he would do this. But now it seems like a no-brainer, And I can kind of see how he's. I don't know if he's been planning this for years or not when he started creating all these books, but like you said, it is pretty seamless. So maybe, I mean, the seeds were planted with the whole plot of Wanted, which is what this is all riding on, and that was 20 years ago.
I wouldn't. Fresh isn't what I would use to call it. Seamless.
I'm looking for a word.
Seamless to me. It's because like it's not like this hasn't been done. Yeah,
it seems kind of a natural progression to me too.
Yeah, it doesn't feel forced. But it's weird because it doesn't feel like he's been planning it. It doesn't feel like it's like it makes sense.
It's exciting. It's very exciting.
It's good, and he did it in a way because like some people can like cross over stuff, and it just doesn't feel right. This feels right, I guess, because like normally you would see this and you're like, oh my god, all right, like you're crossing over your characters, like they make no sense going together. It's not really like they're crossing over, but they don't all have major parts to play, and I think that's why it's working because you'll just have like Duke McQueen in his granddaughter's classroom talking about his exploits, right? So it's not like he's like, at least now he's not like a major factor. He just happens to be part of this thing where like, okay, basically what's happening is like in Wanted, if you watch their video, if you haven't seen it, they kill all the superheroes, the villains have this fraternity, they run the world, but now like and Wesley is basically, he recruited Nemesis at the end of Nemesis, and the heroes are sprinkling back in, and that's the whole thing of like that's the whole point of this book, at least from the first issue, is like he wants Nemesis to kill all these motherfuckers before.
Because he said you were created to be the nemesis of all this, like it's in his name. It's pretty clever for him to sort of take that slant with that, specifically with that character,
which I think Nemesis Reloaded obviously was meant to lead into this. I think that
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
thinking that Nemesis Ambassadors was probably what kind of started him having the idea maybe of crossing them over. That's my opinion. I don't know. It's something I'd probably ask him. I don't think any of the other books have been leading to this. But I'm saying I would go like, so that makes sense, right? He rebooted Nemesis because like that is a dope idea to be like you're the nemesis to all this. So I think that
yeah.
that's why he chose to reboot that. And but yeah, like to see him mentioning, like Wesley's mentioning, like, oh, there's this space adventure, there's this fucking billionaire, and like he's mentioning all these different things, and like we as readers, if you read his stuff, know what he's referring to. Now, I
Yeah.
definitely think that from a business standpoint, it's smart because
Mm-hmm.
you're now reigniting interest in all of your properties that
Mm-hmm.
maybe has kind of waned over the past few years, right? Like maybe people aren't talking about Chrononauts as much as they were maybe when it first came out. Same thing with all the other properties, right? Like, so now you're going to get people that maybe just pick this book up and are like, oh, I want to know more. And you're going to sell. I would imagine the trades are going to start to sell better
Yeah.
than they
It's
have.
gonna make them more evergreen, like as far as going forward goes, which is smart. And we've always said that Mark's a great comic book creator, but he's also an extremely savvy businessman from day one.
Yeah.
And that's clear in the trajectory of his career. But that's not in no way diminishes that this is still a fun creative project. It's just like he very smart guy. He knows what he's doing with these crossovers, with these books. So I think I think you're right in that it makes them much more interesting to people reading comics now.
Yeah, because like, look, I mean, not everybody probably would pick up Starlight. It was always one of my favorites, but now moving forward, like I guess depending on how much he's a part of the book, like you'll get like people like, oh, who is that? Like I want to learn more, right? Like
Yeah,
because you just gave him a taste, and then obviously Wanted probably will continue to somewhere. I mean, they're re-releasing the first issue. It came out came
yeah,
out this week also, right? Like a
yeah. I
10
saw that.
10 year anniversary special. But Nemesis Reloaded, people are already talking about that book. So it's just gonna get people, and you can pick and choose because there's a lot, and he's just made. I mean, we haven't even touched on Jupiter's Legacy. Like, I don't know, is that not part of it? Because like that doesn't make sense. Because like they've always been around. They've been around
Yeah,
since going back to like the 50s, based on the history of that franchise. So like I haven't seen it in here. Maybe that's going to be one of the properties that's not tied into it.
right. There is a scene where somebody's watching TV and Jupiter's Legacy is on it. So maybe within this world, it's like out. Since this is supposed to be our world, maybe Jupiter's Legacy is like like it is what it is to us, a show on Netflix. I'm not sure. I'm trying to find.
I
Yeah,
didn't
here's
see
the
that.
see how they're watching it. It's
Okay. Yeah, I
so I'm
glanced over
thinking that
that.
maybe that's what it is, because I do love that theory, which is something I noticed when Nemesis Reloaded came out, which is like the idea that like we as a culture are obsessed with superheroes, like we are in real life now. I mean, like it's the biggest genre in movies, on TV, everywhere, because in the back of our minds we had them once for real, and this is our way of like it's a really clever idea to play around with that and to work your wanted like backstory into it. Again, it's a very well orchestrated. This is very well put together.
Yeah, no, he definitely. I can't say enough about his stuff that I'm digging. Like it's like I my love for his work has been reignited based on going back
Correct.
and reading
Same.
some of his old
Yeah.
stuff. This is what he does best. He does, like these kind of like big blockbuster type stories, whether he did it
Mm-hmm.
in with people think of Civil War, but if you look at, like the Wolverine stuff he did, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, he did a Spider-Man book that nobody really talks about.
Mm.
The Marvel Knights one with, I think the Dodsons were on art for that.
Yeah.
And it's hard for me to be honest with you, to really remember everything in that story, but I remember really liking it at the time. I just bought Trouble, that one that's
Oh.
because I just wanted to see what it would be like to read it now, because I read it back when it first came out, and that's like a retelling of a story of characters called Ben and May, and
Yeah.
Richard and Mary,
Yeah.
and there's a little boy named Peter involved in that. So I
Yeah.
mean, if you're a comic fan, you'll know what I'm talking about. They
Yeah.
never explicitly say who these people are,
Yeah, I don't think the last names are ever mentioned,
but
which is what yeah.
we all know who it's intended to be, you know. So I kind of wanted to go back and see somebody that one of the groups we're in was selling it. So I'm like, okay, I'll buy it. I'll see what it's like again, you know. And then yeah, like that 1985 book that he did, right? Like there's just so much that he's done where he has like big bombastic ideas and he always executes them very well. Like I'm not
Yeah.
saying we're going to get a Millarworld crossover event. Like I don't think there's going to be a cinematic universe. He could,
Yeah.
but I doubt it. I just think it's like this is just so many properties to build out. Like that if you by the time you got to like big game, the guy that's playing kick-ass as a teenager is going to be too old. Well, I guess no. I guess
Yeah.
the way he's setting it up, I guess he is old in the book. So I guess maybe it could work. Who knows? I don't know that he wants to recast that, but it would be cool to kind of see him try to get a few of the properties that have been done during Netflix's time and maybe lead to that. But again, like you have to build the brand first, like
Yeah.
them. The comic book brands have already been built. They have their fan base, but to kind of translate that to film, so I'm thinking maybe this is his way of doing it, you know, is
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
it
I
in
think so
comic book
too.
form. But yeah, I think it's great. I think I recommend it.
Yeah, it was a fun issue, man. There's a great scenes. I like the snippets that you see of like each of the properties, and we haven't even seen them all yet. I mean, there's mention of the chrononauts, you know, when they find like the human settlement that dates back in the years. You got you got Dave, kick ass himself. Like, I love that bit where he's writing the doctor behind the ambassadors project
Because
because
he wants powers.
uh
Yeah,
right,
it
because
makes
I
sense.
do love that bit where like the only ambassador they have not created yet is the American one because nobody can agree. Like as soon as they pick one, like half the country hates him and the other,
Yeah,
it's a
they
good
called
like
us as Americans dickish. Yeah,
yeah, and I get it. It made sense to me. That was fun.
yeah,
But yeah, Dave is making the argument that he deserves to get superpowers because he tried to be a superhero even when he didn't have them.
yeah.
And it seems like he's living a suburban life with I don't know if he's married or just lives with his girlfriend, and they're talking about going to IKEA and stuff like that. So that was cool. You get to see Prodigy, you said,
Yeah.
and then you get to see some of the ambassadors. You get to see Duke from Starlight. So he's already dropping a bunch of them in here.
Yeah,
And we
and then you got that like mysterious woman too, like that's new to the book, and she like takes him into what I mean, spoiler alert, but
yeah,
she takes him into this like place that's basically the Bat Cave.
she's almost like Barbara Gordon is the vibe I'm getting.
That's what
Like
I was
without
getting to, and she's like, "This is where I came before the mind wipe," so that's why she remembers everything, which is
yeah,
also kind of cool to have a
yeah,
character that still remembers, like somebody that's good, that
yes,
remembers the world before.
that is not part of the fraternity.
Yeah, yeah, I'm
So
excited. Excited.
I'm on board, man. Like
Yeah.
it's fun in the way that like the crossovers used to be when I was a kid. Maybe because it's new characters and like it's not a new concept, but it's an old concept brought to new characters and like titles that like you said earlier that you wouldn't necessarily think would all work together, but they do. So it makes I don't know it makes the crossover feel new. And when I said earlier that it felt that's why it feels fresh by virtue of it being these Miller characters, and I think it's a stroke of genius on his part. And I mean, if any indication, it seems like a lot of people are on board too, and a lot of people are excited about it. It's bringing back Wanted in a big way. I see people talking about Wanted again, and that he's done so much that it's easy to overlook like some of his projects, but they're all pretty good, man. And he always pairs with a fantastic artist, which reminds me, we cannot end without talking about the art by Pepe Larraz, which is fantastic,
Oh,
man.
he's
He
one of the
does,
best in the business, and Mark just keeps stealing all the good talent.
yeah,
And
man. He pays that excellent page rate. You know what I
yeah,
mean? They're gonna go to him. But yeah, he does killer work here. I mean, if you've been a fan of what he did on X-Men, I mean, I think this is right up there. Perhaps even a little better because Mark is also known to give artists as much time as they need
mhm,
to create the project so that like everything is as best as it could be. And
yeah,
the obvious care and love put into this project is evident as well. So like you said, I'm on board, and it's probably one of the titles I'm most excited for this summer. You know,
Yeah, I
I
would
was
say so.
genuinely like stoked going to the shop knowing that it was out. You know, and I've read it a couple of times. You know, I read the advanced copy I got from Netflix Image, but I mean, it was a much better experience reading the actual book.
It's
But
always better
I'm on
reading the
board, man.
physical. Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah.
I think it's what is it going to be 4 issues, I believe.
It's only 4.
No, maybe it's 6. I can't see if it says it anywhere. I'm sure there's information out there.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
I didn't think to look that up, but
yeah,
yeah, I
four.
mean,
I got it 4. 4 seems kind of short to it.
yeah,
But
for a
yeah,
big
man. I mean,
crossover. Yeah,
this issue is primarily like setting up your chess pieces, but it's still loads of fun, and it obviously leaves you clamoring to find out what's going on. And I just can't wait to see how we bring in like Eggsy from like Secret Service, or how we're gonna bring in the vampire kids from nightclub and all this. So I'm on board, man, and it's probably the comic I'm most excited for this summer,
yeah.
just
I
by curiosity. Is I mean, I didn't think I wanted a Miller World crossover, but it turns out that I guess we all do and need it, you know?
Yeah, yeah, no, I'm definitely excited to see where he goes from here. And then, like maybe he even like introduces new properties within this that he spins out. So that'll be kind of cool to see. But yeah, go check it out. Go pick up the book. It's definitely worth it. If you were on the fence, I mean, I think you
Yeah,
could pick it up without really knowing anything also. So I think that was pretty smart of him to kind
five
of give
issues
you
on the
just a
cover.
little to give you just a little bit
Yeah.
of information on each one. But yeah, go pick it up, go hit up your local comic shop, pick up the book, pick up some of the old stuff, check out some of the Millarworld stuff we have on the channel, the interview we have.
Yep.
Make sure you follow social media, the links are down below, and hit the subscribe button so you're notified every time a new vid drops. And on that note, we're out.
We'll see you next time, guys.